Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rate of Troy Radio. It's the Carcast after USC's 33-17 win over the Purdue Boilermakers. We're going to talk about the game, give you our thoughts, all of that stuff here on this episode. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com. And our phone number, 818-643-7227. Second Woodsboro and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined with my co-host here in the Rant of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia and Artola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. USC just won a game in the Eastern time zone for the first time since 2012.
It's been a long time coming, and it came full circle.
Alicia,
all it needed was a lightning delay.
Hey, the only two times that we can find a lightning delay on record at USC, that Syracuse game in 2012, in which SC won at MetLife, and today's game at Ross-Ade Stadium in West Lafayette, a game in which the Trojans won on the road in the Eastern time zone. You know, that Syracuse game, before you were even on the podcast, before we got to hear this.
Hi.
Yeah, that long ago. Alicia, you want to hit us with your opening remarks?
Yeah, my opening remarks are to mirror some of what is being said in the chat. Last year's team loses this game.
Before we got to hear this.
And, if nothing else, this game was a proof of progress. I think that we saw a quarterback who looks steadier, even if he did have a couple of moments where he was, testing things out and potentially, Badger agrees with whatever I'm saying. He wants to join in. Mayava, I do not know what the problem with this dog is. Mayava looked comfortable. I thought he had a really good game, even without scoring a touchdown through the air. I think that the running backs looked good, even though Wayman Jordan started a little rough. I thought the wide receivers looked great. They made huge plays and attempted to make some pretty sick one-handed catches that they didn't quite pull off. But that unit looks like there are real playmakers there for USC to lean on. And yet, it feels like USC left a ton of points on the board, only scoring 33. So there's like a little bit of a twinge of and then on the defensive side, it's kind of the same. It's kind of like in reverse, where the defense, like Purdue left a bunch of points on the board, but the defense got the big stops when they needed them. They made game-changing plays with two interceptions in the red zone by Bishop Fitzgerald, the pick six, the most fantasticest pick six, thick six that you'll ever see. 360 pounds barreling down the field, 70 yards. No, that's what they call it on Twitter, the thick six.
That's real good.
Yeah, thick with two C's. Yeah. So, there were big plays in this game that USC didn't get in the games that they lost last season. And that's the big difference. There were still things defensively that give you pause. I don't know that USC answered my questions in this game, except for the concept of could USC go on the road under tricky circumstances and win? And they did that. They went on the road, had their game delayed 3 hours, had Purdue get weirdly lucky a few times, and they still managed to pull out what was a relatively comfortable win. I wasn't particularly comfortable during it, but realistically, if we look back on it, when I watch it again, I'm sure it will feel like as much as anxiety as USC fans might have been feeling because of a little bit of a sense of a here we go again, Purdue was never actually within touching distance of USC. USC was never actually in danger of blowing this in the end, or when they were, what I said on the live watch, on the watch along, is USC left the door open for Purdue to get dangerous, but then they closed it a bunch of times. And that is the difference between winning and losing on the road. I'm not going to say a win is a win, because you shouldn't need to say a win is a win against Purdue. But at the same time, we watch a lot of different teams around the country for 3 weeks now struggle with teams that they shouldn't struggle with. And USC, I wouldn't even say they struggled with Purdue. The only thing USC failed to do in this game was pull away. And they're going to need to be able to do that, for sure. But at the same time, like, this was a more comfortable win than a lot of teams have been able to, like, breathe a sigh of relief and get out of Dodge. There's still a lot to improve from USC, but it does feel like they have improved in this game. I come out feeling like the pieces are there to have a successful season, and the pitfalls are certainly there for USC to fall into. So on we go to Michigan State to find out a tiny bit more about USC until we get to the actual meat of this schedule that'll tell us for real what USC is or isn't.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting everything. I think you sort of summed up everything. I look at this game like one of three different ways. One, there was a part of it where it's like, here we go again. Absolutely. In that second half, SC left the door open. And I think it was very similar to the Maryland game in the sense that SC was toying with, being up 3 scores. And then suddenly you get like a weird play, a turnover, a bounce that just doesn't go your way. And suddenly everything can crumble in on you and collapse, and you're looking at a loss all of a sudden in a game in which you were seemingly comfortably ahead. That did not happen in this game. I think that the other side of it is every time things looked like they were going to go completely sideways, SC had an answer. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a long drive that ended in a field goal, as unsatisfying as that is, those are still points, right? Or they got an interception in the end zone, or they got the John Jarrett thick 6, right? Like all those kind of things. They at least answered the bell. Did they do it emphatically? No, because there's another way that you play this game. Like if you play this exact game 10 times over, there is a game in which SC wins this game 56-10.
Yeah. By
just finishing off their drives, getting into the end zone rather than settling for field goals, and not giving up a fluke play in which interception goes through Eric Gentry's hands, but it's backwards, so Ryan Brown picks it up and runs into the end zone. There's also a world in which you replay this and SC loses because they don't get the thick 6. And Purdue doesn't turn it over in the red zone. But I think that you play this game over and over and over again, SC's going to win it 9 times out of 10. I think they outplayed Purdue. They played with their food a little bit. Absolutely, 1,000%. But I think my biggest takeaway is this is the team that on the road, the last 2 seasons, had won 2 games against the spread. SC does not cover the spread in this game. But they get close. They get close to it. And last year, they were 1-4 outright on the road. Hadn't won in the Big Ten. They went to Minnesota and lost. They went to Maryland and lost. They went to Washington and lost. They went to Michigan and lost. All of those games, every single one of them, you could walk away saying SC should have won this. SC had them. And it's one thing to lose one of 4 games like that. To lose all 4 in a similar way is brutal. And SC will not be going 0-4 on the road in the Big Ten this year, in part because they went out there and they didn't collapse. They won a game in the Eastern Time Zone for the first time in 13 years. So I understand that the PTSD from last year flares up dramatically. But at the end of the day, I think that, like, Jaden Mayava didn't throw the interception that Miller Moss did against Maryland. I thought Mayava looked really, really, really good in this game. There was one drive where he absolutely had like 3 different passes that could have been intercepted.
He played with it.
Yeah, he played with it. But for the most part, I thought he was really damn good. The passes he threw to Lake McCree up the seam, every single one of those was spot on. The deep balls to Jacoby Lane were all put in a spot that only Jacoby Lane could catch. And if it was, Sultan McCullough running down the sideline, the fastest Trojan ever, yeah, maybe he catches it and runs into the end zone or whatever. But, like, that's not Jacoby Lane's game. And he put it in a spot where Jacoby Lane could make the big play, and that was perfect. The deep balls were perfect. There were one of the lobs on the first drive where they get the pass interference, maybe a little risky, but I really liked what he did. He ran confidently when he pulled the zone read keepers. He was really good at the mesh point. I think that we can talk about individual players. But in the running game, I thought the running game really came around, especially in the second half. Wayman Jordan had what I thought was a really poor first quarter. Mm-hmm. And he bounced back to have 18 carries for 77 yards. Only 4.3 yards a pop, like not great. But in the second half, tremendously better.
His first 6 carries got him like 15 yards. So like
it was worse than that.
Yeah.
His first 6 carries were 4, 0, -1, 2, -2, 1.
Yeah. So then you factor in what he did after those 6 carries, and it was pretty damn good 12 carries.
In the second half, 5, 1, -2, 15, 7, 4, 11, 10, 11, 5, 0. Mm-hmm. You take that second half every single day from him, and I thought it was great that, Lincoln Riley and the coaching staff continued to trust him. We talked about it after the Missouri State game. He fumbles in that first drive. A lot of coaches would not give him the ball for 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Right? And credit to Lincoln Riley for trusting him and having him work through his fits. He's a young player. He's not going to be perfect every time. It's week 3. Players are allowed to have a bad quarter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he worked through it. Eli Sanders looked great. 10 carries, 75 yards.
We saw King Miller.
We saw King Miller. I think the biggest issues on offense were the lack of finishing off drives in the second half.
Well, and I think a lot of that had to do with just sort of an issue that we already know, which is that the offensive line is unreliable or inconsistent. Mm-hmm. When the offensive line was blocking well for the run and giving Mayava time, this offense was moving fine.
Yeah,
I think that there were drives there that the offensive line didn't, got allowed penetration up against the run, and then also sent Jaden Mayava, scrambling, leaving the pocket a few times, and then he was missing throws when he was trying to rush it. Like, I don't think we saw him miss throws where he had a clean pocket and was able to sit there and pick his spot. I think we saw him take the risks and miss his throws when there was some pressure coming his way. Yeah. Which is sort of two known issues, is the offensive line being like, and the quarterback being like, when the offensive line is like, Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at the drive chart, SC in the second half, 4 drives on offense. All of them settled for field goal attempts. One of them by Ryan Sierra was missed. All 4 of those drives got inside the Purdue 30 at one point. 3 of those drives got inside the red zone. One of them got down to the 2-yard line. So, like, again, if SC finishes off the drives on offense, I think that they end up scoring 50 points in this game. They take a lot of pressure off of the defense. They kill a lot of the mental fortitude of Purdue, right? Yeah. I think what keeps Purdue in this game is knowing that they're one weird play from being right back in it, and they got a couple of those weird plays. They got them. Luckily, SC was able to get some timely Bishop Fitzgerald interceptions in the end zone to sort of, negate those.
Yeah, and I think that's what this game ultimately comes down to is the timely plays that the defense made, particularly the turnovers, which change games. And also, as the LRT 56 in the chat says, I was happy with the running game at the end because they showed toughness.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to have to do to win in October and November on the road. I was really pleased with the way that the running game grew into the game, and I think it was at its best late in the game, which is exactly what you kind of want to see from an offense. So there were things here that you can certainly work with. There were also things here that are we perfectly comfortable with the game against Purdue coming down to 2 interceptions at the goal line and a 70-yard thick 6 from a 360-pound defensive lineman? I don't know, but
let's go to a super chat that we got from Skill K. If not for a terrible penalty call on the punt and the most broken touchdown I've ever seen, Purdue has 1 score. Purdue got 10 points that shouldn't have happened, and we left tons on the table on offense. 1,000%. I am with you here. Where I think that Purdue's 17 points is pretty true to how the game played out is that SC had to rely on 2 interceptions at the goal line. And as insane and broken and utterly wild and crazy and weird as the Eric Gentry, miss and lateral pickup that Ryan Brown had, I'm not going to hold that against any. I know people wanted, Eric Gentry to make the play, obviously, but he completely blew up the play.
He blows up the play, and if the ball bounces one different way, it's a play that ends up, doing the job.
And the thing that you love about Eric Gentry is that he's willing to take that risk to make the play, right? He was doing what makes him Eric Gentry. But anyways, you get that happens. I think that sort of cancels out with the thick 6 a little bit in terms of SC got a bounce that went their way. Purdue got a bounce that went their way. You just cross that out, and then you figure out one of the pick 6s can at least cancel out with the horrendous call on the blocked punt attempt. I hate complaining about the refs. I think there were 2 bad calls in this game. One of them I think was, I can understand why it's called, and that's the punt play, because that is a point of emphasis, and that's been a penalty for the last 5 years or so. But that penalty exists to prevent somebody in a punt block or field goal block situation from running and hurdling the line, not only potentially injuring themselves, but injuring a defensive player. And it's like a sort of a gimmick attempt at trying to get a block. That's not what happened, though. What happened was that SC's defenders on the play were... he's trying to block the punt by jumping up. He jumps too high, and if anything, awkwardly, to the point where he comes down on the other side of the Purdue, guys blocking the punt.
Well, they might as well have undercut him. They undercut him. He's clearly not trying to jump over them. He's just trying to jump straight up, and they flip him over, and it's a silly.
I get why it's called, because he did end up
hurtling over
them.
Yeah.
But it's not what he was trying to do. I think anyone rationally watching that, at least in slow-mo, would realize that that's not what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's a bad call. I understand how it gets called, but it's a bad call. And then the one that I think that I just don't understand at all is the holding call on Jakeem Stewart. The only explanation I have is they said it was on number 4, is that one of the refs misheard and it was on number 24, which is Christian Pierce, and we didn't get to see the replay of that. It's the only explanation I could think of there. Unless we didn't see it on the broadcast, but like people were popping into your watch along asking like, what the hell was that?
The only explanation that makes a lick of sense is that it was the wrong number.
Yeah, it's the only thing.
Because holding on a defensive player, and in the game book it is given the holding is attributed to number 4, Jakeem Stewart. So
yeah,
there wasn't like a fix there if that was what was happening. But yeah, I don't know what was happening there. I hate refs in general. Like I just think refs are just refs. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two calls were ridiculous. But also, you know, there was a lot more to this game than the refs. Like I think that USC.
Yeah, and I hate talking about refs in general.
Yeah, I mean, but we have to talk about refs if USC is going to have a game where they ended up with what was the penalties? 9 penalties for 104 yards,
and most the vast majority earned, like absolutely earned. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and say that they shouldn't have been penalized as much as they should have been. But I think that for me, the penalties were more representative of just like some sloppiness that USC had. Yeah.
Which, in game 3 on the road, after a rain delay on what I assume to be a slick field, like
especially when they didn't have a lot of those issues in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
I tend to not think of it as that big of a deal, but that's one of those things that ages. Either it's going to age and you're going to say, well, the issues here were one-off. It was a road game on the road in the Big Ten after a 3-hour rain delay, and it's early in week 3. Well, you have to prove that that's the case.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for me, my complaint with the refs has more to do with what they didn't call.
Sure. There were some late hits I thought could have been
called.
there
were some late hits that it took forever for them to finally call one. Mark Hoffman in the chat says they were holding Lucas all game. They were holding Lucas all game. They really were. It was pretty blatant at times, and they just holding just doesn't get called regularly, so whatever. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the penalties thing is more of a, like everything with this game, is more about like we'll find out the truth of whether or not this is a big deal later. Mm-hmm. It's just something that USC clearly doesn't want to have to deal with.
Yeah.
You never want to have 104 yards of penalties. You never want to have 9 penalties. And like Paul in the chat says, like, there was a bad PI call against Purdue too. Like,
yeah,
I didn't see the PI on that one with Makai Lemon.
The one with Makai Lemon, I understand why it's called,
yes,
but that's a Pac-12 PI?
Yes.
That's not a Big Ten PI?
Yes.
If anything, it was just hand fighting that was pretty equal. Looking at the numbers, SC had 1 holding penalty, so did Purdue had 1 holding penalty. That sort of balances out. The biggest thing is SC had 2 personal fouls. One of them was roughing the passer, which was roughing
absolutely
the passer.
roughing the passer, and a veteran player that shouldn't be making that mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other one's on Walter Matthews for the jumping over the guy there. We got another super chat to get to. I can't re-trigger the sound, which is annoying. I just need to add it back to the soundboard. Tim in LA. Big ups to Tim in LA. We love Tim. I will 100% take that win. Broke the East Coast streak. Forced turnovers, downfield passes in stride. Overcoming adversity, a glorious thick 6, and a distinct lack of "here we go again" FTFO. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I
did have the "here we go again."
I had some "here we go again" personally, but I'm also an anxious human, so that's like
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got another super chat from Irvine Cattle Ranch who says, "I choose to be optimistic, Irvine Cattle Ranch." There we go. Yeah.
I come out of this game honestly like a very medium. I feel very medium. I see a lot. There's a lot to like about this team, and there's a lot to be worried about with this team. I think it just sort of goes back and forth, and unfortunately, again, it's like we're just not going to get answers until we see USC actually take on different opponents than this.
Yeah.
This was USC's to this date toughest game of the season, and they won by 16. Did I want them to win by 24? Yes, I did, but they still won by 3 scores, which is more than enough for a road conference game. If you give me road conference games where USC is winning by 3 scores, then sign me up all season long.
Yeah.
This Purdue team is no worse than last year's Maryland team, if you ask me. So,
no, I agree, and I think Purdue played pretty well for like
Purdue's
if
quarterback.
You're a Purdue fan, I think you have to feel good about how they played. Like
Purdue's quarterback. I mean, I know you defensively. I think USC fans can certainly look at 305 yards and raise a fuss about how that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But like, tip your cap to this guy. Like, he was getting hit and just managing to find receivers and managing to get the ball out accurately. And I think that a lesser quarterback gets rattled by USC's pass rush. And he throws 2 interceptions. The other one is just he gets hit. But so that shows the effect of USC's pass rush and good reading by Bishop Fitzgerald when USC needed him. But he was making plays. He was making a lot of plays, and not just that absurd, touchdown picking up a ball lateral thing. Like,
big heads up play for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. The picks were an issue for him, obviously 3 picks. But Alicia, I think if you're going to make picks, I think the way to do it is not in the end zone if you're Purdue. I think the move is to do it over at Underdog Fantasy, is it not? Because, football season back underway. The NFL returns tomorrow for week 2. College football just finished up week 3. And nothing is easier than making picks over at Underdog, my favorite daily fantasy app, where I can play with as little as $1 and win up to 5,000 times my money. It's all about using your ball knowledge to pick whether a player will go higher or lower than their stat projections. Mix and match players on different teams, different games, different leagues, everything. Make your picks over at Underdog. This week in the NFL, I am doing this on Sunday. Tua Tagovailoa, lower than 237.5 passing yards.
It is absurd that they're giving him...
Not feeling good about Tua.
They're letting you pick higher or lower on 237 passing yards for Tua. Yeah.
Josh Allen going higher, 272 pass plus rush yards. Jared Goff higher than 23.5 completions. And then the Bears, Tremaine Edwards, higher than 8.5 tackles plus assists combined. They're playing the Lions. Lions are going to run up a bunch of plays and probably make a lot of plays, which means a lot of tackles for the Bears. So that's what I'm doing over at Underdog. You can join me. Download the app today and sign up with promo code Reign of Troy to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. It's promo code Reign of Troy. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Alicia, we got another super chat. This one's from Graham. Big ups to Graham. Question. Do we have a prolonged rain delay every time we play in the Eastern time zone so we can win? Can we have one? Maybe that's the key.
Maybe
I will say this. Big fan of a rain delay in the Eastern time zone. As a Cubs fan, huge fan. Huge fan of those. So I'm good with it. I'm good with it. If that's what it takes to get some mojo.
I mean, if we need to start doing rain dances and stuff like that, whatever it takes to win, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it takes for SC to win games on the road, a place where they haven't really sort of done that. Let's walk through the stat book a little bit. We talked about the run game, 18 carries for Wayman Jordan, 10 for Eli Sanders. But let's talk about the pass game. Jordan Mailata, 17 of 28, 282 yards, a third straight game, Alicia, with 0 interceptions. Yeah, there was the one drive where he flirted with it, but he didn't. He did not.
I mean, the thing is,
and
like,
flirting with it does not count if you don't throw it.
No, I mean, and the thing is, last season he flirted with and threw interceptions. So, you know, I will absolutely take making it through 3 games without a turnover. He hasn't fumbled either, has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no turnovers for Mailata through 3 games. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah.
The Mailata that we saw last year just looked like a quarterback that was going to be turnover prone.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing that from him. Obviously, he's made some dangerous throws, but every quarterback makes dangerous throws.
Not in the same way that he did last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think somebody in the chat said something about, here it is. Alberto said, it's just not realistic to be perfect.
Right.
Yes, he's not a perfect quarterback. No quarterback is.
Yeah.
But he's getting the job done, and for me, the thing that stands out with Mailata is he's looking very confident in this offense. And the throws that he's making dangerously, like, there a couple of them felt more just like he was confident enough to try it. And yeah, maybe he got away with it, but also he was pretty close to pulling some of those off. So
for sure,
there was one that to Mekhi Lemon that was truly just like, I don't know what you're doing, but he was scrambling out. And again, it's one of those.
It was a comeback where the corner jumped the comeback route. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think certainly he's flirted with having some turnovers, but at this stage, to have no turnovers at all is well beyond what I would have guessed for Mailata. And to look, I mean, I hoped that he would look more comfortable in this offense.
Yeah.
And he does. And he looks like he has a better rapport with the receivers. Yeah. He looks like he has it's significantly more confidence when it comes to read options and whether or not he's going to keep the ball or hand it off.
Yes.
And that benefited USC greatly in this game. So, you know, I think that through 3 games, I give Mailata a passing grade. I think that...
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, bigger challenges will come.
Yeah, we said that we needed to see him take a step forward. And
it feels like he has.
It feels like that he has. Am I willing to say that, you know, he looks like a quarterback that is going to take SC to the playoff? No, because I don't think there's any player on SC's roster that looks like they're going to take SC to the playoff right now. They've got to prove that. And through 3 games, he's done what he has needed to do through 3 games to show that he is on a upward trajectory, which is what you needed to see. What you needed to see from the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. He has made a couple of...
What I'll say, too, is he's had a couple drives where he's maybe flirted a little bit too hard with the big mistakes.
They've been kind of isolated.
But the big difference between this year and last year is last year he was having quarters of that.
Yes.
That's a huge difference.
100%. We talked about it in the Missouri State game. There was a play where he just sort of lobbed it up. That was risky. There was a play early in the game in the first quarter where he just lobbed it up to Jacoby Lane. He ends up getting the PI call. Mm-hmm. Those are plays where, like, he made a lob that was crazy at the beginning of the fourth quarter in the Texas A&M game in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. And I think that those lobs are a little safer when it's I think he's identifying those lobs better. If it's a one-on-one situation and Jacoby Lane is the guy, go trust that Jacoby Lane is either going to get the ball or there's going to be a PI, he's at least going to defend the pass away from being picked.
Did we see him do any of those lobs into like double coverage? Because I think
no,
right.
I think they've all been into the only time that he threw into double coverage that was sort of dangerous was that one drive where he had those 3 passes and like 4 plays that were a little harrowing. But like, no, I think is the point here. You can take a jump ball situation if it's a one-on-one situation and you trust your guy. Yeah. That is a different scenario than just like, all right, I'm just going to throw it up and just pray that something happens. No, I think it's a better calculated risk because Jacoby Lane is going to win that matchup more often than he doesn't. And instead of a 50-50, maybe it's a 67-33 when you include the chances of drawing a PI call, which Jacoby Lane will do. Well, has done.
I was going to say,
a couple games.
You're probably going to get that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the thing about whether or not, like, the perfection, I do think that there is. This is always difficult to parse out because I think the word expectations has multiple meanings in the dictionary. You know what I mean? Expectations in terms of what you want, what your standard is different than what you expect to see. Those are 2 different things. But I also think that, like, so much of the expectations that are put on this team in terms of standards and judging everything, judging every performance, is judging SC on the 2004 team or judging them as if they are Georgia or Alabama. And I think USC should try to beat Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State 1,000%. I think you should strive for championships. I think that you should say that you're going to do those, and you should aim for those and do whatever you can to do that. At the same time, this is a team that went 7-5 and 6-6 in the regular season the last 2 years. If you are expecting them to look like Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State, I guess Ohio State and Georgia, because Alabama's been sort of a struggle bus at times, you are setting yourself up to be disappointed. Like, SC is not going to go from a 6-6 team to a team that is infallibly perfect overnight. They needed to go on the road and prove they can win a road game and not completely barf all over themselves and throw it away. They didn't do that. They didn't. How many turnovers did SC have in this game? 0. They went on the road and had a 0 turnover game, a game in which if they would have had a turnover or 2, this game easily could have been flipped and lost. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, go ahead.
I mean, on the flip side, it could have been flipped and lost, but also, as Randy asked in the chat, had Gentry caught that throwback pass, would we be looking at a 40-10 victory? And would you then look at this game differently?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. I think people would be looking at it differently. I don't necessarily think that, maybe this is probably wishful thinking. I don't know that I necessarily would be looking at it completely differently. Because, I've talked about, like, I think that and the thick 6 sort of cancel out in randomness.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just looking at it too objectively or too boringly. I don't know.
I think what it comes down to is like, I think we would be looking at it slightly differently, but just because it's a 30-point victory, you just feel different than a 16-point victory.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, I think that you could probably still be asking all of the same questions about the defense. Mm-hmm. It's just that there's one extra turnover in there.
Right.
You know, as Rama Murdy in the chat says, we're work in progress. Yes, USC is a work in progress. And I agree 100% with you. Like, you can't judge this team against a 12-0 kind of perfection expectation.
Yeah.
I have predicted this team will go 7-5. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I'm judging them from a 7-5 expectation.
Right.
Because I do think that this team is better than their record last year, and they need to start showing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, going on the road to the Big Ten's Corvallis and winning by 3 scores, it definitely could have gone better in my view, but it definitely could have gone worse in my view.
Yeah.
And I think that it's another one of those where it's like, move on to the next. If this is one of 10 wins, then the 16 points of it all really will be irrelevant. And if this is one of 7 wins, the 16 points of it will still be slightly irrelevant, because this game will not be the one that, like, we'll be talking about at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, on offense, if you finish off your drives, every single one of SC's drives got inside the Purdue 30. All but one got into the red zone. And they scored 2 touchdowns on offense and had 5 field goal attempts. There's a lot of points there that they left, and they got to finish off those drives. They got to clean things up. Does that give you pause for concern going into Illinois that they won't be able to finish off drives against Illinois? Maybe. I think that's a valid question to ask. At the end of the day, like I said, I think if you play this game 10 times over, they're going to finish off more than 2 of those 7 drives. I don't know.
Or at least you would expect
maybe it's wishful thinking, but I feel like they would.
No, I mean, because we could also look back at last year and say, if you played that season over, USC wins, a bunch more of those games.
Yeah.
And so the possibility is always there that, USC will end up, leaving points on the table when they play Illinois. Mm-hmm. But at the very least, now they've gotten the monkey off their back as far as the road stuff.
Rating in the chat said, did we punt in this game? No punts, and they gained an average of 53 yards on every single drive. So they were moving the ball. You could say it's empty calories, absolutely, and that criticism's going to be there until you finish off your drives.
Both sides had a lot of empty calories then.
The other thing is, remember 2020 when SC had that weird season which they did not, like, they were god awful in the red zone?
Yeah.
That has not necessarily been SC's case. Like, that hasn't been SC's issue of late, has been the red zone. Mostly it's been the untimely turnover.
Yes.
And so I feel like they will be able to get through this. And not having the critical mistake is the bigger takeaway than the stalling drive.
I'm not pushing the panic button on the red zone yet.
Yeah.
We can file that away off to the side for future. But for now, I don't think it's something worth. It's something worth, like, panicking about and saying that this is going to be a continuing problem for USC. We don't know that yet, and there's every chance it won't be a continuing problem with it, because you've got Jacoby Lane, and it was slightly uncharacteristic that USC didn't really try to get it to him in the red zone. I mean, it went at the goal line.
Yeah. Jacoby Lane in this game, 5 targets, 3 catches. There was a question from
Sunbun says no punts is a spiritual win.
I kind of agree. Cam in the chat says Jacoby had some nice catches, but he disappears for long stretches. Alicia, what do you think?
I think that sometimes happens with receivers.
I think it happens with him more often than not. Mm-hmm. In the sense, like, he seems like your prototypical. Like, he had 3 catches, 115 yards, no touchdowns in this game, but like that feels like the quintessential Jacoby Lane game. 2 highlight reel catches. And maybe that's the thing.
Like you said, like that's the quintessential Jacoby Lane game, and Mekhi Lemon is the one who's going to go more volume. Mm-hmm. Which I'm perfectly fine with that dynamic, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that Jacoby played well in this game. I thought he did a good job of creating space for himself, and there were a couple plays there that if the spectacular catch had been pulled off, we'd be talking a little different. And also, like, a couple of those plays, if the quarterback had made it a tiny bit easier for him, then maybe we would also be talking differently about his production. But I think 115 yards, I am perfectly fine with that output as a receiver, especially like if it was Mekhi Lemon who was only catching three passes in a game, mm-hmm. I might look at that sideways. But because Mekhi Lemon is a volume sort of catch the ball underneath.
Mekhi Lemon is your jabs. And
yes, and Jacoby is your
uppercuts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Tanook Hines is starting to become,
your cross guy.
Your cross guy, yeah.
I looked it up, the Maryland game last year in which SC lost 29-28. You want to guess how many receivers had catches in that game? The reason I bring this up is we talked about it on the watch along, which you can go back and watch the VOD, the video on demand, if you want. Your live stream from the watch along will put together a highlight reel that'll probably go up on Monday. But the thing where SC is gone back to 2011 and 2005 and 2006, where this is a receiving core where you have 1A, 1B, and then you don't have anything down till like your third is like extremely distant third, right? Mm-hmm. In this game, Mayava throws 28 passes. Of those 28 passes, 16 are to receivers. 13 of the 16 are to Lemon and Lane. Only 3 catches were not to them. They were all to Tanook Hines, who seems undoubtedly the number 3 guy right now. Drastic change from last year, in which you had a huge rotation, a lot of rotation, which I think this is a bummer for Jay Fair and Strawn and like all those guys who could play a role here. But also, this seems like it is a choice, and it's also Lemon and Lane are proving to get those balls. But going back to my original question, how many receivers do you think caught a pass at Maryland last year?
Let's say 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Lemon, Robinson, Lane, Branch, Hudson, Fair, and Ford. Which is like everybody. I can't think of anybody who was missing off that list. Yeah,
which I think that there are some teams that works really well for them. Like I think of the Washington State Mike Leach teams where it just always felt like they had 5 guys with 300 yards each on the season.
Yeah.
And that can work out for some. I felt like last year the receivers didn't ever really get into a rhythm with the quarterback, and there was something off about that receiving core in general. And we had heard that receivers were complaining about how they weren't able to get into a rhythm and that there was too much rotation. And they've clearly either listened to that or just recognized that Lemon and Lane are the guys, and they're justifying that that distinction. It's also one of the complaining about how they weren't. One of the reasons that somebody in the chat asked, like, does anybody else like miss Michael Jackson III, wish that he hadn't left? Yeah, I wish that Michael Jackson III hadn't left either, but I suspect that he would, in this offense, would be exactly where he was when he left in the first place, because this would still be Lemon and Lane, and maybe he takes the Tanook Hines role, maybe, but it's still a situation where the USC has the two guys that they like. Mayava clearly feels really comfortable throwing to them. Mayava, I think that Mayava clearly has found players that he trusts to throw. Lemon, Lane, McCree, and Hines is starting to earn a little bit more of that kind of trust, but you don't really need more than that, realistically. Unless the guys that you're, unless you get to a point where Makai Lemon or Jacoby Lane aren't getting the job done, then you're in trouble. Then, not having a deep receiving core becomes an issue. But so long as they're getting the job done, it's perfectly fine. I relate it back to Marquise Lee and Robert Woods. There weren't a lot of other receivers catching passes that season, because why do you need anyone else?
Yeah, 100%. In the chat, Cam says that Jacoby Lane will not be a top draft pick. If he doesn't get more explosive, he will struggle at the next level. He's a poor man's Dwayne Jarrett, and Jarrett struggled in the league. I think that comparison is very good. Dwayne Jarrett was very good at college, and that's all USC should ever care about.
Well,
for what it's worth. But
he wasn't NFL fast.
He wasn't NFL fast.
And I think I don't know that we've seen that from Jacoby either.
I don't think we've seen it from Jacoby either, but I think they have very similar games. They are great playmakers. They are great man beaters. They are great aerial combatants. If you were looking for them to be a technician, don't think that they're a technician. But that's why you have Makai Lemon.
Yeah,
that's why you had Steve Smith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the combination of those two which allows you to thrive. And if Makai Lemon has 2 to 3 times as many catches as Lane, but they have the same number of yards, and Lane has more touchdowns, then so be it. Like, who cares? You need them to work in a tandem, and if they continue to do that, then great.
Yeah, and they're doing different jobs. They're doing different jobs for this offense, and thus far, I think they're both doing those jobs well. Could everybody be better? Yeah, of course everybody could be better, but I don't think wide receiver is an area of concern for me at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's run through the rest of the box score stuff before we get to talk about Rotometer really quick. Eric Gentry led the Trojans in tackles with 8. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles. One of those, the unfortunate fumble in which he almost had the pick 6 attempt bat down. I feel so bad for him because he had a incredible game statistically.
Well, remember people talking about how Eric Gentry was having a quiet season? Yeah.
3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, one of them being an incredible pass breakup that could have been a pick 6 in the, if you run that play 100 times, there's several pick 6s in there.
And right? You want to know my hot take?
What?
I didn't think he had a great game. Like, he had those great plays, but I don't think this was his best game that I've seen from him. I've seen him play better than this.
I think that's good. I think it's good that, like, you can sit here and be critical of his game, and still it's a game in which he had 3 tackles for loss and 2 forced fumbles. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, because, again, this is the thing. Is like, there's a lot of concern about the secondary. There's a lot of concern about the linebacker play.
Yeah.
And there's concern about the defensive line play when it comes to stopping the run. Mm-hmm. Those concerns are absolutely valid, and I think the eye test bears that out, and the stats bear that out, and all that kind of stuff. The best way to deal with deficiencies on your defensive line, your linebackers, or your secondary? Sacking the quarterback and getting into the backfield, like making those kinds of plays. So, yeah, I think Eric Gentry can play better. I think he can tackle better. But he also was responsible for 2 of the biggest sacks of the game and 2 of the biggest plays of the game. And, that does make a difference. Bishop Fitzgerald, had a missed tackle that was costly to USC.
Let's talk about him.
And then he had if you boil this game down to the two most important plays of the game, it's Bishop Fitzgerald's 2 interceptions.
Yes, 100%. Especially the second one. The first one I thought was a great play in which, like, it's a little bit sort of a desperation. He doesn't want to get beat, and so, like, he puts his hands out there, but also just makes the catch, and it's great play and coverage. The second one, he's just perfectly in zone and is in the right spot. He reads that.
I mean, we talked about this on the watch along. Like, it's like he understood that Purdue had been finding a lot of success on those slants, and so he sort of baited the slant and then just took it. Like, it was very intelligent play from him.
Yeah, and Fitzgerald is such a fascinating player so far, because depending on when you watch him play so far in the first 3 weeks, it reminds me of Torrin Harris early 2011. Torrin Harris early 2011.
Torrin Harris, my God,
was making incredible plays, or the man on the scene when things went awry.
Yeah.
And it ended up being that he was the man on the scene when things went awry more often than not. But he made big plays. He had the big interception against Minnesota in week 1 that sealed the win to start that season, the game in which Robert Woods had 8 million catches, right? Like, he was there in the place to make those big plays. And Bishop Fitzgerald has 2 breakdowns last week that don't look good for him. One of them is a one-on-one matchup where he's sort of on an island covering a receiver, and which you probably don't want your safety to be doing anyways, but he sort of gets mossed and even commits a PI, and it's a touchdown for Georgia Southern, not Missouri State. And then there's the breakdown where he sort of lets his guy go, or at least that's how it looks. Obviously, we're not in the film room to figure out exactly what the breakdown was on their second touchdown, but like, he's the man on the scene there. And then there's the play in this game where he breaks down. He collapses down in the flat to potentially make a play for either a short gain or maybe a tackle for loss, depending on where he was. But he sort of gets beat. Doesn't make the tackle. But doesn't matter when you get the 2 interceptions. You know what I mean? Like,
again, it's your
mistakes.
You make up for your mistakes if you make the game changing plays. And one of the things that USC's defense has struggled with over the last 2 seasons is finding the guys who make the game changing plays. Last year, they had 2 of them in Jalen Smith and Kamari Ramsey, but
right,
there was slim pickings elsewhere. I also have some breaking news. USC is 13 seconds away, and I'm on a delay, so it might even be less than that. Is 13 seconds away from a back-to-back perfect weekend, wherein USC is undefeated and USC's rivals Notre Dame and UCLA are combined to have 0 wins on the season.
Oh my God!
Notre Dame and UCLA are collectively 0-5, are about to be 0-5, and USC is 3-0. And there have been back-to-back perfect weekends, assuming Notre Dame doesn't do something crazy with this kick return.
Wait, Notre Dame was on bye last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they really are winless.
Yes. USC's rivals are winless right now.
A completely different winless, because Notre Dame's still going to be ranked next week, despite being 0-2.
Yeah.
And, they've had 2 games that went down to the wire against ranked teams, but UCLA is in a situation where I put this in our Discord.
Oh, Ray. Did UCLA win? No, it's 3 perfect weekends in a row.
Why?
Because Notre Dame and UCLA have not won games yet. And USC has won 3 games.
Yeah, but Notre Dame didn't play last week.
So it's not a perfect weekend?
It's not a perfect weekend.
Okay, that's fine.
But perfect weekend adjacent. for sure.
Yeah.
I put in our Discord that, like, as far as UCLA is concerned, like, I feel bad for Deshaun Foster. He's in a place where he just cannot win. He also looks like he's very overmatched. Did you watch the presser last night after their loss?
No,
Oh
I don't
God.
like looking at train wrecks.
It was uncomfortable. Yeah. He gets asked, like, do you feel like you're in over your head? And he's like, no. But also, like, I don't know what he's supposed to say there. But it's so uncomfortable. Like, by all accounts, he's a good dude. And I think he's worthy of being on a coaching staff and all that stuff. And it's a great opportunity for him. But, like, he's in a tough spot and he's not the guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel bad for Jake.
I feel bad for Jake, yes.
Like, they're so bad that, like, can you really enjoy UCLA's downturn? They're this bad? You know what I mean? Is that crazy to say?
I certainly
Logan
enjoy...
in the chat says they could go 0-12. They genuinely
could. That's the scary thing.
Their best shot for a win is next week against Northwestern on the road. And I don't think they're going to be favored in that game. Yeah.
There are rumors on Twitter that he's not going to make it through the weekend.
Brutal.
Yeah. UCLA is a wreck. Notre Dame's losses are different, like you said. But also, you know, it goes to show that
Notre Dame's not infallible.
Well, Notre Dame's not infallible,
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
USC, like, they just lost, and it's not the same team, but, like, I'm just going to do it lazily anyways. They just lost to the team that USC beat in the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
USC,
not exactly the same team, but yes.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's a lazy comparison. But I will say again, like, USC is a team that is better than their 7-6 record was last year. And they have more talent than that. And they have more ability than that. And I'm not even saying if they play up to their potential, because if they play up to their potential, they're in the playoff. Like, they're in the playoff. But if they just play up to, like, a better level, then there's no reason we should not be talking about Notre Dame as an automatic loss.
I agree. Yeah. Oregon still looks like an automatic loss.
Well, Oregon at Autzen is I'm not pinning too many hopes there, but it's just one of those things where if this USC team can clean up a few things and continue to have the playmakers make plays. If you're telling me that the rest of the way that Eric Gentry and Bishop Fitzgerald are both going to make a big play or two every game, and that you're going to get the consistent play out of Christian Pierce that you're currently getting, and that the defensive line is going to, the edges are going to be getting the kind of pressure that they're getting, and that Mayava is going to continue to look as comfortable as he's looked, and that the running backs are going to be, you know, as good as they've been, then USC should be looking at this season and seeing a huge opportunity to go out and make a push for the playoff. If they just show a little bit of grit, certainly on the road. Yeah. If they don't mess around with teams like Nebraska or Iowa or even Michigan, you know, at the Coliseum, like, that should be a game that Michigan is scared of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's only one game on the schedule right now, as it stands right now, that is a absolute, I cannot necessarily see a way that SC wins it kind of game, and that's Oregon. Everything else, Notre Dame absolutely going to be very difficult. But that
three-game stretch is going to be difficult. Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, and let's throw in Nebraska too. Yeah, like, it's not going to be easy, but
and
good
like
USC teams win those games.
Yeah, and like Joe in the chat pointed out, like, SC still led a lot of the game against Penn State and Notre Dame last year, despite going 6-6. So, like, if they're better, then yes, anything is absolutely possible. All right, we put a link in the chats. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, you can check the the description there. If you're on YouTube, you can look at the chat or down in the doobly-doo to make your thoughts heard on the RoT-o-meter. Alicia, it was 6.94 coming out of the Georgia Southern game. That's what the RoTBots had to say. Don't want to go too much into the responses that the RoTBots have right now. I know I don't want to influence anybody's votes for what it's worth. But I will say this. I think there are answers that are all over the board with the RoT-o-meter. So I think this is a game in which, against Purdue, that anything you wanted to see, you could have seen and taken away from. But your personal RoT-o-meter, where do you have it?
I moved it up to 7 last week, I think.
Okay.
And I will go to a 7.5.
Okay.
Out of acknowledgement of the difficulty of winning on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any possible way that I will move this up before the Illinois game, because at this stage, the Michigan State game circumstances and what that team is, I'm not going to feel any more confident after that game, no matter what the score is, than I currently do as far as going to Illinois and winning on the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's honestly 7.5 feels a little high, personally, but that's what I get for moving it up to a 7 last week.
No, I'm with you. I think 7.5 is a good spot. In part because what were my biggest questions about this team going forward? Was at quarterback, and I think Jaden Mayava is having me eat crow as it stands right now. It's early; it's 3 games, and you can say the same thing about the inverse too. One of the things I thought the best about SC going into the season was the secondary, and I think right now the secondary is the most worrisome unit on the team. They're just all the complaints that SC fans had against LSU early in that game. Remember Kyron Lacey, rest in peace, who had all that, room to catch passes in the first half against SC. And then it changed in the second half. That first half is basically how SC has been defending teams in the passing game. And I'm guessing this is by design with Danton Lynn to play off. And so many of Purdue's dudes were just wide open on slants and RPOs. I can't tell if this is just strategic, if this is poor execution, if it's column A, column B, more than likely. That's sort of my biggest worry, but it's also 3 games. And I think everything cancels out in my positive and negative thoughts that 7.5 seems just about right.
When I put it this way in my head, I feel better about my 7.5.
Yeah.
If we're doing this on looking at this from a grading point of view, 7 out of 10 is a C.
Yeah.
So USC's working at a C+ right now.
Yeah. Flirting
with a B. That feels about right for where USC is, considering USC was a D student last year.
No, I agree.
USC was a D student last year who got called into the teacher's office and lectured about how they were wasting their potential.
Yeah. Wind and the Sun in the chat says, do we lose this game, the Purdue game, with Miller Moss at quarterback? I think that's a very good question.
He didn't win the games that he played.
I lean no, but the Michigan game, he had a pick 6 in that game. I don't think Miller Moss is the reason SC lost to Michigan, but there was a pick 6. There were 3 interceptions at Washington. There was the tipped interception that I don't really blame on him against Minnesota. There was a drive that stalled that really could have put it to 2 scores and sort of started to put that game away at Minnesota, and they didn't score. And then Maryland, he has the backbreaking interception. If he does those things in this game, yeah, I think very well SC could have lost this game. There was absolutely a pathway to lose it with Miller Moss doing those things.
Well,
would he have made those mistakes still? I think is a question.
Well,
but
I'm gonna come in here and say I think so.
Yeah.
Because he threw interceptions in 5 straight games.
And on top of that,
and the one game, the 3 games that he didn't throw interceptions in, USC won.
Right.
But he threw interceptions in all of the rest, and USC lost most of those. And we saw him on the road. He didn't go on the road without throwing an interception, except for the LSU game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it would be safe to assume that he would have thrown an interception in this game in this context.
Yes.
And we're seeing the difference between in a game on the road where your quarterback turns the ball over and a game on the road where your quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. If
you don't turn the ball over, you can have a game that is not 1,000% perfect and you still win comfortably because you didn't. SC's biggest crime on offense was not finishing off their drives. But they didn't finish off their drives and still got points.
And that's the thing. Yeah. Like the Minnesota game, if he doesn't throw two interceptions, USC wins that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think where my hang up on it is, if it was the other way around, if Miller Moss was the quarterback, he didn't leave, and the question was about Maava, I'd be saying the same thing.
Well, because
Maava had thrown interceptions in all those games. And so we've seen Maava seemingly through 3 games get past the interception stuff, or at least work his way through getting past the interception stuff. And we haven't seen Miller Moss do that at USC. So that's where I'm a little squeaky about it.
This is something we talked on the watch along too. It's like Miller Moss was not suited to this offense.
Well, he wouldn't have been doing all the zone reads. The zone reads were really good in the first half.
JS in the chat says, but Lincoln is running the ball more. Miller did not have that benefit, competence level building this year that wasn't there last year. Why is Riley running the ball more? Because he's calling more read options that he wasn't calling.
I think the other thing,
or didn't feel confident calling because he didn't have a quarterback who could actually pull it.
So we talked about how Wayman Jordan was bad in the first quarter, right? But really good after that. And maybe in doing a rewatch, you can maybe tell a little bit more, but my little initial thought is I think a lot of that has to do with, I joked in the watch along that they just need to put bigger spikes on him, which I
wonder if they did.
Could have been the case. But no, I feel like a lot of it has to do, not only did he just run with more confidence, but I think that all the zone read stuff in the first half opened up opportunities for him because Purdue had to account for Jaden Maava to tuck it and run himself. And because of that, if that draws even a half defender, if it draws a defensive end, 2 steps to stay towards the outside to account for Maava and give, Wayman Jordan 18 inches more of room, then that is beneficial. And I think that absolutely helps. So I think all these things sort of go into it. One, I think SC's running backs are very good. They were very good last year too. I think they are running more confidently of late. And they're allowed to have a little bit more leeway, in part because the defense has to account for Maava. Now, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people wanted Maava to start last year over Miller Moss. Mm-hmm. But we didn't see it outside of the Nebraska game.
He looked super uncomfortable with the concept of running.
Yes, and there was a comment earlier in the chat, and I missed who said it, but about Maava as a runner, and that he's not necessarily quick.
Fast.
He's not fast. He's not graceful. He doesn't look like a runner. He looks uncomfortable, but not in a bad way. He looks uncomfortable in he's a tall, lanky guy running way rather than I don't want to be doing this way.
Yeah,
now.
He's like he runs like somebody who maybe has a couple like whose legs are disproportionately long compared to what they should be on their torso, and so they just are a little bit gangly.
Yes, he's a little gangly in that sense. Yeah, absolutely. But he's running more confidently despite the gangliness. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's big. I think that helps him because the defense just has to account for those things. And if you're going up against 10.5 dudes instead of 11, because one of them has to account for two things, that helps. Football is a game of numbers, especially an offense like Lincoln Riley's, which is going to be predicated on RPOs and getting guys into space. That is all about putting the defense in conflict. If you put more defenders in conflict, you will have more room to do things. So, yes, if all the yearning for Jayden Maiava last year, it makes a lot of sense when you watch the Purdue game. And if you go back and watch the Nebraska game, in the other games, he was being used the same as Miller Mollison. It was not a change in that sense. So, Steven says, I love seeing Maiava not just take off and run, stays in the pocket and extends plays, good development. He's not someone who just runs with his head cut off like a chicken. That's a weird way of putting that.
Like I said, just everything about him looks like. Here's the thing. It's funny because in the off season, there was all the talk about like, oh, he just looks so much more comfortable in the offense and he looks like he's ready to take that next step and stuff. And I sort of disregarded all of that talk because it's like they say that every year about every quarterback. But no, really, in these games, it's felt like he gets it a little bit more and he is more self-assured about what to do in those scenarios. And I think it's paying off for him. Obviously, we're going to need to see him keep his cool and make these plays against better defenses, but you can only play the defenses that you've played so far. And so far, I think he's done a pretty good job given the circumstances. I'm much more worried about the offensive line holding up than about what Maiava does behind them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, three things I think before we wrap it up. One, Paul says, do we get ranked this week or still dissed?
No, I don't think USC gets ranked because this wasn't an impressive
Georgia
enough.
Tech won.
This wasn't an impressive enough win. Texas A&M losing would have opened a spot. Auburn.
USF lost.
Missouri won and looked good. Auburn won.
Texas
Michigan
Tech
won.
Indiana won.
I think Utah won. So like USF.
Florida lost. Yeah, I think SC moves up more on the brink. I do think that there was a lot of discussion about SC not being ranked, so that might. They mentioned it on game day. I heard.
I think it did get mentioned on game day, and I do wonder if voters will respond to the reality of what the computers are saying about USC compared to what the voters are saying, and maybe that gets USC in. Yeah. But I also
Clemson's going to fall out though. They're falling out of the top 25.
Yeah. There will be a couple spots, but it's. I
say they're 26 next week.
I think 26 or 25, even in terms of how I expect to.
Yeah, JS says Notre Dame is 0-2. Will they still be ranked above? I think they will be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because let's just be honest about
they should be.
Notre Dame's 0-2 record. They have lost to a Miami team that will on the road to a Miami team that will be only moving up after their win over USF, and they've lost at home to a ranked Texas A&M team.
Who will be in the top 10 after winning in South Bend.
Yeah, so they have the two best. Of any two lost teams in the country, they obviously have the two best.
The best 0-2 team in the country.
Best 0-2 team in the country.
They are a completely different use case than Clemson.
Yes.
Clemson is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clemson should not be ranked. Yeah. Okay. Other thing, I just want to run through some scores. We're going to rapid fire these. I'm going to mention scores, and you just one or two words. Your thoughts on these things. Some of these still in progress. Cal up 7-0 on Minnesota.
Good for them.
Ohio State plays with its food but beats Ohio 37-9.
Was that at home?
Yes.
Yeah, see, again, it's everybody can have a weird day offensively.
Yeah. Penn State finally gave up points.
The difference between Ohio State and USC there is Ohio State's defense is legit and USC's is still questioned.
Yeah. Penn State looked like they were headed to the second straight shutout, but Villanova scored 52-6. They're a little slow start for Penn State, but they still won that big one.
The most Penn State-y Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah. Oregon, 34-14 on the road at that temporary stadium on the lake against Northwestern.
Literally, it's mirror image of what you happened to USC and Purdue.
It's similar, yeah. Illinois, 38-0 over Western Michigan. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alabama, 38-14 over Wisconsin. Sure.
Good one.
Yeah. Michigan killed Central Michigan. Nebraska, 59-7 over Houston Christian. Maryland, 44-17 over Towson. Towson? I think it's Towson.
Towson? I
Is it
think Towson.
Rutgers murdered Norfolk State. Michigan State. They beat Youngstown State, but it doesn't look great. 41-24.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, Michigan State is 3-0 and not a super impressive 3-0.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think next week is... everything about that game just screams like win and then move on to Illinois.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Iowa wins 47-7 over UMass.
Iowa scored 47 points.
They scored 47 points. Mark Gronowski, 2 touchdowns, 179 yards.
Michigan State is the reverse Notre Dame. Michigan State is an unimpressive undefeated, and Notre Dame is a relatively impressive defeated.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Indiana murdered Indiana State 73-0. I love how Indiana does not play with its food ever under Cignetti.
Well, they did in the first week though.
Sure, but
they messed around with Old Dominion. Old Dominion
murdered Virginia Tech.
Oh, did they?
It was 28-0 last I saw.
Oh.
I'm gonna
45-26.
Is that a final?
Yeah, at Virginia Tech. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So ODU might be good, but Virginia Tech also might be real bad.
I mean, yeah, that's
real bad. All right. Final scores, ranked teams really quick. LSU 20-10 over Florida. Florida's done. Dunzo, as they would say on Solid Verbal. Miami, big over USF. USF, the pumpkin has come out for them. Tennessee blows it against Georgia late. They lose in overtime, 44-41. Georgia, I'm going to skip a bunch of these. Vandy killed South Carolina 31-7. Vandy should be ranked. It's possible South Carolina falls out. They were number 11.
Okay, I'm just gonna have the conversation.
Okay, go for it.
This was why, when the preseason rankings came out, I looked at them and said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna argue for USC to be ranked because skepticism is warranted, certainly. But there were teams that were ranked, not just in the top 25, but like top 15.
Yeah.
Who I had just as many questions about, who had returning quarterbacks that are widely perceived positively, and who were getting a benefit of the doubt that USC was not given. Now we've seen Arizona State fall out. We're going to see South Carolina fall out. We're going to see Florida fall out. SMU has already fallen out. Kansas State has fallen out.
Mm-hmm.
USC has not and had been given any benefit of the doubt in this season. And I'm not going to argue that they should, considering.
Wait, did Lenore Sellers get hurt?
Did he?
Only 6 of 7 for 94 yards.
He must have gotten hurt then.
Yeah.
Which does, it certainly changes things for South Carolina, but
yeah. Alton in the chat said that Sellers did get hurt. Yeah. That's a bummer for him. I really like Sellers. Utah big over Wyoming, 31-6 on the road. Going on the road at Laramie when you don't have to in a non-con game,
Mm-hmm.
I respect that. Takes cajones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's 7,000 feet of altitude. Altivation.
Altivation.
You know, it's close enough.
I love it.
Yeah. Missouri big over Louisiana, and Ole Miss beat Arkansas, 41-35. Iowa State over Arkansas on the road in Jonesboro. Respect it. Respect it.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap up there. We did get a comment from Rama Murdy. Whatever you did to make Jesse and Badger happy, it's working. Yeah, it's called a Kong.
No, you know what I did to make Badger happy?
What did you do?
I opened up the gate so he could come lay under the bed, under the
Did
desk.
he give up on his Kong?
He gave up on his Kong. He walked over here. He curled up under the desk and is now fast asleep.
Oh, good.
He's snoring. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
He's a weirdo.
He's a
little
weirdo.
dog. Yeah.
That's fine. He's cute.
And Jesse's over here looking at us like, "Are you wrapping up yet?" Like,
I think Jesse ate both Kongs, by the way, because both Kongs look empty and they're both laying next to her. So, yeah.
The evidence not going in her favor. Win and Son. Hi, RoT. Quick question. Tight end play has been great so far this year. What changed versus last year?
They're throwing to the tight end up the seam. It's just it's stupidly simple. We had not seen them throw these passes up the seam to the tight end consistently.
Since Caleb. Caleb did it.
Yes.
With the RPO, like the pop play. But these haven't been the RPOs.
No, these are just hitting the tight end up the seam. Yeah. And that's a huge difference. Obviously, we did see the Walker Lions one that was more of what we saw last year and the year before with the tight end going, out into the flat. Mm-hmm. That was effective. That got the first down. I don't mind that in a short yardage situation. USC kept doing that in like 1st and 10 situations, and that was annoying. But no, they're throwing the ball downfield to the tight end. What a concept.
Yeah. Gaia Shy in the chat says Virginia Tech is East Coast UCLA. That's funny. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. We've gone long. We've talked
haven't
a bunch
eaten
of stuff.
dinner yet.
Do you have any? I'm very hungry.
Yeah.
Can we go eat dinner or something?
We can go eat dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. It's been a long day. You've been on Watch Along. Go check that out on YouTube. Also, at least if all goes to plan, this is the first episode you can watch on Amazon.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh.
I think so. We made it through recording and streaming at the same time. So
look at that.
Check us out on the Amazon.
So, yeah, if you have an Amazon, I don't even know how this works.
I don't know either. This is terrible promotion
I think it's,
for this.
if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, go try to see how that works and then tell us how it works.
Yeah. All right. So until Monday we'll have the fallout. Go vote in the Rotometer. Put your thoughts where your Rotometer is. Until then, we will see ya.
See ya.
See ya.